Hey friend, Graham here from recordingrevolution.com. Let me ask you a question. Have you ever wondered what would it sound like if a Grammy award-winning producer engineer re-recorded and remixed and reproduced one of your songs? Well, I've had that luxury and it's been a really interesting experience, and I want to share some lessons that I learned from that process. I think you'll find this interesting. So a little while back on this YouTube channel, I did a video series called How to Record a Song from Scratch. And then I did a follow-up one, how to mix a song from scratch. And I wanted to show you the process by which you can get your song idea out into the world using home studio equipment. And I took one of my original songs that I was writing at the time. I had a little song idea, and I just basically created a song in front of you on YouTube using really affordable equipment. I think everything I did in that series cost me less than $350 US. Microphone, interface, everything. And so this wasn't my typical gear, and it wasn't really a full-blown production, but I wanted to show you how simple it was to get a good quality recording and mix with affordable gear. The song was called Bury It, and it sounded a little bit like this.
On the wrong side of a smoking gun.
Now, a few months back, I was in Nashville working with multiple Grammy award-winning producer, engineer, mixer, Jacquire King. He's a good friend of mine. I really respect his work. I love his ear, the way he hears music. And so we were working together in Nashville on a really cool project where actually he was producing an entire course for the Recording Revolution brand for you. And to get more information about that course, go to recordmaking.org. You're going to love this thing. So what we decided to do, and it was actually Jacquire's idea, he said, man, I love your song, Bury It. What if we just took that song and redid it from the ground up in my studio, and I used that as a teaching platform for how I think about arranging and recording and producing and mixing music. I said, dude, I would love that. Have at it. So in this process, a week-long process, we filmed this entire thing. He took my recording of Bury It, analyzed it, and in the course, he explains his whole thought process. It's amazing. And then we rebuilt it from the ground up. I played guitar and bass and sang. We had other people playing guitars. We brought in a world-class drummer, and we just filmed the whole thing, and then he mixed it. And what we got at the end had a very different flavor to it. Take a listen.
I was on the wrong side of a smoking gun.
Okay, it's similar but different. And in thinking back to that process in Nashville and comparing the two results, what I wanted to do was distill the three big lessons that I learned that I thought were valuable in having a Grammy award-winning producer re-record my song, because I think it'll help you as you're thinking through your own music. Lesson number one was, and it's one of my favorites that I continue to relearn, is less is more. What do I mean by that? Well, if you compare the verses of my version of Bury It to the verses of Jacquire's version of Bury It, you'll notice a major thing missing: the guitar part.
I was on the wrong side of a smoking gun. You better believe I regret more than half that I've done. I was on the wrong side of a smoking gun. You better believe I regret more than half that I've done.
So basically what I had was the main hook, the main little guitar riff, and that played throughout the entire verse. It was the intro, it was the verse, that was the main hook. That's what I wrote the song to on the verses, so it made sense for me to have it in the verses. When he listened to it, he said, we should take this away in the verses and just drop it down to the bass and keep it really stripped down so that when the electric guitars come back in the chorus, it has more contrast. And that's the sub lesson under the less is more, is When you take away elements, even the main element from certain sections of the song, it creates instant contrast. So you have big, small, exciting, dull, narrow, wide, quiet, loud. And that's an easy way to make your mix or make your song exciting to the average listener because they're on a musical journey. It's not all just one volume or one aesthetic, which can kind of get a little boring if you get used to it. So I loved how he said, hey, first thing we got to do is take away the guitars in the verse. And at first I was a little apprehensive. I was like, well, dude, that's kind of the main thing. But it worked out and I really, really dig his version. Lesson number 2 was try to stand out a little bit more. Okay, this lesson was how do we take a simple rock riff, Maroon 5 kind of thing and make it more interesting. So we could have just stuck with a typical overdriven guitar, but the moment he heard this song, Jacquire thought, let's make those guitars really fuzzy. So if you'll notice the guitar tone at the very beginning of the song, from my version to his version, changes. They're both overdriven, but the guitar tone in his version is clearly fuzzed out and very crispy in the top end. Take a listen to the two. What this does is the moment you hear that guitar on Jacquire's version, your ears perk up. It's a clearly sort of Muse-esque, like really fuzzy, overly driven guitar tone. It's not standard, it's a little more. And you go, oh, and you either like it or you don't. But that's kind of the point, is it's raising its hand at the very beginning of the song saying, this is fuzzy, fizzy, and aggressive, buckle up. And I like that. Where I think the tone I picked was a little safe, this took it to another level. So the meta lesson for you is, as you're thinking about creating tones and sounds on drums, vocals, guitars, synths, anything, try to make those things a little more than they are. A good example of someone who does this really well is my buddy Ill Factor. Ill Factor is a Grammy-nominated producer out of Miami. He does a lot of amazing hip-hop and EDM music and music for video games, and super talented guy. But being in the studio with him, I love watching his process. We were writing some songs last year together in his studio, and he'll take a patch and he'll just play around because he's all sort of keyboard based, and he'll play around with sort of native instrument patches or contact or something, and he'll find a sound he likes, but then he'll never leave it at that sound. He'll add distortion to it. He'll put it through a filter or a flanger or something weird, and he'll just mangle it, and he'll spend time mangling it. And I'm like, dude, it sounded cool. And he will spend time going after it till it sounds even stranger. And what that does is give you more of what it was, something a little unique, your own sonic imprint, and it makes the listener go, ooh, that's different, because it is different and it's not going to sound like everybody else's patch. So something to keep in mind as you're putting together sounds for your songs. I literally just got a text from Ill Factor right after I said that about someone wanting to license one of our songs that we did together. That's super dope. That was kind of freaky. But all right, third and final lesson is sound design, sound design, sound design. Now, I am admittedly a man of simple tastes. I grew up in the 90s grunge rock era where it was just drums, bass, guitars, you name it. And if you grew up in the sort of 80s punk rock scene, very similar, right? The 80s punk rock merging into the 90s grunge rock, it was stripped down. It wasn't the hairband stuff. It was like this rebellion against glam rock, and it was like, let's strip it down to its essence. That's my love language, if that could be a love language, is simple, guitar-driven rock. That's exactly what my version of Bury It is. It's simple, and granted, I'm gonna give myself some, slack here. I was creating that song in front of you for YouTube, keeping it simple for a video series, and I didn't add all the bells and whistles. So, it's still kind of not the full Graham effect, but I won't make any excuses. It's a dope song. I love my version, but admittedly, it's sort of a 90s grunge rock version of that song. Jacquire heard it and said, I love the song. What can we do to make it more modern and add some more sound design elements, which is something that I saw him do at Mix with the Masters 4 years ago in France. When he would pull in tracks to record, he'd have maybe a scratch vocal and guitar. He would sound design even before we pulled in the band. He would bring in drum loops, and he would bring in weird little sounds and little patches and little calls and responses from his keyboard patch library, stuff that I didn't think would naturally fit the song. But then when he built the band element in, the guitars, the vocals, drums, because he's a very much a band-centric producer, I didn't realize how well a lot of those electronic, synthetic, sampled elements would blend so well with the authentic, raw, natural music stuff. So if you listen to his version of Bury It, you're going to notice these little mysterious sounds that create an atmosphere. They're subtle, but they're there. Even the very beginning of the song, he has a little bit of a tail of this sort of low-level pad that's mysterious sounding. So you go, ooh, what is this? It took the straight up rock version and added an atmosphere of mystery to it that wasn't there just by doing a little bit of sound design. Take a listen to my intro and then his intro and then my verse and then his verse.
We stood up for what's right, at least in our own eyes. Never stopped to consider what a mess we've become. Inside of a murderous mob, we stood up for what's right, at least in our own eyes. Never stopped to consider what a mess we've become.
I love it. He did so much to breathe more life into this song. The song is very simple at its core, but I think he took it to another level. Now, there's a sub lesson in there that I learned as well, which is if you're working on somebody else's song, let's say you're mixing somebody else's song or you're producing somebody else's song, you don't have to completely change the song from the ground up to make it your own. Jacquire didn't throw out most of my song. He didn't say, I like it, but let's strip it down to its studs, and let's build it back up with a hip hop beat and, a piano. He kept the song almost exactly the way I had envisioned it. He just added some little things to it and made it his own. At its core, it's the same type of arrangement. He didn't reinvent the wheel. He just looked at it and said, what are the strengths of the song and how can we sweeten it and make it that much better? And I think that is a refreshing way to look at music, is put your spin on it, make it just a little bit better, and he executed flawlessly. Now, depending on when you're watching this, this may not be as relevant to you, but you can still benefit from this. Next week, we are opening the doors to a brand new course called Record Making with Jacquire King. This is over 30 hours of insanity, awesomeness we filmed at his studio in Nashville last December. And it takes not only my song from concept to recording to producing to mixing it live in front of you. It takes other songs that Jacquire mixes in front of you and other stuff that he's arranged, and he breaks down other songs. It is getting into the mind of Jacquire and spending a week basically with him as a fly on the wall, sort of interning in his studio. It's an incredible behemoth of a course that is a dream come true for me to put together for you, because I respect Jacquire so much as a producer and engineer, but even more, I respect him as a person and an educator. This guy cares so much, and he has poured so much into this course to make it amazing for you. We're opening the doors next Monday, July 29th, but to give you a little sneak peek, go to recordmaking.org right now, recordmaking.org. I'll put the link here in the video and below in the description box. You can actually get a sneak peek of the course and be on the wait list so you know the moment the doors open, so you won't miss it, because we're only opening this course for a limited time. It's going to be an amazing, amazing opportunity for you to step into the mind of a Grammy award-winning producer and learn not only how to produce, but how to record and mix and analyze music from one of the industry's best. As always, thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing to the channel. Thanks for all the support. And I hope to see you inside the new Record Making with Jacquire King course when it comes out next week.
Let's just be clear here. You can make a great record at home. If the idea is there and the inspiration is there and you're creative, you do not need to go to a commercial studio to make a great recording or something that's compelling. Whether you're a producer working with other artists or you're a self-producing artist, I will show you my approach to recording, producing, and mixing professional sounding records. From vocals, instruments, the gear I use, arranging, interaction, the whole studio environment. We'll cover it all.